Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. And for those of you that are down southeastern United States, I hope you've fared okay and things are okay for you and your family. So today we got some fun stuff to cover. First, the 5Q tape breakdown. Learn how you can ask 12 open-ended questions, lickety split in 10 minutes, guaranteed. So that's kind of a drill that we're doing here. So again, 5 to 10 minutes of learning this goes a long way for the rest of the rest of your week. So it's a way to get 1% better every single day. This is a different, I've talked about the FBI before and how we use a lot of the same skills that they use, but this is a different take on it. So I thought it was pretty interesting. 5 psychology tips that from an FBI hostage negotiator that will make you sell better. So Chris Voss served as a hostage negotiator for the FBI for close to a quarter of a century. During a portion of the time, he was the Bureau's lead international hostage negotiator. Voss had an epiphany of sorts upon leaving the Bureau, and he realized that several of the skills he'd learned and honed in the wild during hostage negotiations were directly relevant to the business arena. So here's the kind of things that he talked about. Before we do that, though, do you think dealing with a hostage, somebody who's holding people hostage, and even international person who's a non-American that's holding a hostage is more difficult or easier than talking to a client who's held hostage by their current advisor? What do you think is harder, a international evil dude or a client who's being held hostage by their current advisor? So if it works for this, guess how well it works for this. So the first thing he talks about is mirroring. Mirroring involves repetition of 3 to 5 key words that your counterpart's previous statement. So we can't renew our subscription because of budget calls. Mirroring, you can't commit because of budget cuts. So we can't renew our subscription because of budget cuts. You can't commit because of budget cuts. So what do we call that? We don't call it a mirroring. What do we call it? We do this. Very good, Tom. Who else? It is a part of aping, but remember, there's 3 parts of aping. What part of aping is this? Agree, parrot, or empower. Which one is it? Very good. Yeah, parrot. So you say exactly what they say back to. Very good, John. So you say exactly what they say back to them. So do we use this? Yes, we use it as a part of our getting on their side or part of the aping. So check off that. Emotional labeling. Labeling is, in a sense, is mirroring on steroids. Rather than merely repeating words, labeling involves proactively labeling your counterpart's emotions, especially their fears. That entails careful and proactive listening skills. It sounds like you're afraid of lack of security features. It looks like you're concerned about security. We actually do this on steroids. They talk about what they're doing on steroids. We actually do this on steroids, and it's, again, a part of aping. Agree, parrot, and empower. What do we call it? And we don't do it like this. We don't do it like this. We don't assume how they're feeling. We actually do what? Yeah, Nick, and we not only do we say we agree, we say what? Yeah, we got some. We say that what? So which one of GOTS is this? Is this agreement? Is it parroting, or is it empowering? Ah, that's right. We are the same. We say so. We empower them, saying, "Wow! I mean, the fact that you think that. I mean, you're unbelievably astute of you. I don't know if you've got training on this. I don't know if you just have the intuition. But I've talked to 5, 6, 7, 8 people in the last week that did not get this right or did not have that kind of insight. So the fact that you have it, wow, that is impressive. So I don't know if you have training or you just have a phenomenal intuition. You've nailed it. You've nailed it. So what am I emotionally labeling them as at that point? What am I emotionally labeling them as at that point? They are a what? Superior. That's right. They're a genius. They're a star. Exactly. Does that make sense? So do we do this? Check 2. Yes, we do that. In fact, we do it better than what they do it. Getting to know. Do you think it's a bad idea to invest in a platform that can help you? Have you given up looking for new ways to blankety blank? Now, do we do this? Yeah, we do. It's part of what we talked about a couple of weeks ago with the Yale close. It's part of what we talked about with the Yale close. We tell them that, hey, no one can force you to do anything. You're your own person. You can do what you want. See, we're getting them to realize that they don't have to agree with us. They don't have to do what we're recommending. It's them. It's their decision. So we use this, again, I think, better than what they do it. Triggering that's right. So Voss contends that the single biggest breakthrough moment of a negotiation is getting the other person to say that's right. To achieve the breakthrough, they actively listen to the other side and effectively summarize how they feel and what they hope to achieve. If you're selling a software product to a CIO, you'd say, it sounds like you need a solution that's compatible with users' workflows and will not require a steep learning curve. Again, we do this better. What do we do instead of this? Would we ever say this? Would we ever, this is what? Telling, selling, preaching, and teaching. Is this motivational interviewing, guys? No, it's telling, selling, preaching, and teaching. How do we accomplish this? Instead of getting them to say yes, do we ever want a client to say yes? See, he wants them to say yes. Do we ever want them to say yes? No, we never. Why do we not want them to say yes? That's confusing maybe to a lot of the guys that have come on in the lab. We haven't talked about, since we've not talked about this. Why do we not want people to say yes? Because what can yes mean? Does yes necessarily mean yes? Could yes mean, I don't really want to argue with you, so yeah, whatever you say? Could it mean that? Sure it could. Could yes mean because you're not even listening to them? Could yes mean that? Yes, so it could mean I don't agree with you, I don't want to argue. It could mean I'm not even listening to you. It could mean that I don't even understand what you're saying, but I don't want to look stupid, so yeah, sure, yeah, sure, So there's three things it could mean. It could also mean yes. It could actually mean yes. But if they say yes, if I show you how to tie a knot in a rope and you look at it and you say, oh, that's pretty simple, and I say, do you understand how to do it? And you say yes, and then I walk out of the room, then and I say, well, tie that knot while I'm not in the room. You're going to look at that rope and say, holy crap, it looked easy when he did it, but I don't remember how to do it. So if all they do is say yes, guess how long yes lasts? Not very long. So how do we get them to say yes? How do we get them to say yes? We ask them an open-ended question, and we make them tell us, hey, I need a solution that's compatible with users' workflows and will not require a steep learning curve. You have that. That's what you've just shown me, that will do that for me. Now do we know they agree with us? If they say it in their own words. See, so again, we do. Do you think the way that we do it or motivational, and when I say we're using motivational interviewing, do you think the way that we do it or motivational interviewing is more or less powerful than the way the FBI does it? Yeah, it's superior to what they're doing. Using calibrated question, what's the biggest challenge for you? What about this is important to you? This is the Yale close right here. He's using the Yale close, which again is something that we just talked about here a few weeks ago. So are we using the same tools that organizations that have not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but millions of dollars to spend on research, are we using those tools, same tools, and they're actually what? Inferior to theirs or superior to theirs? So it's good to know that what we're teaching you is actually the most powerful tools available for communication, especially when it comes to getting people to our point of view or persuasion. Make sense? Super. So today we've been going, for the last 2 years, we've been going through Ray Dalio's Principles book, and we're going through it one section at a time. Today's installment is about believability and how it weights your decision making. So believability and how it weights your decision making. So first thing is you need to recognize that having an effective idea, meritocracy, requires that you understand the merit of each person's ideas. So should the person with the most experience, should their idea be the most respected? Is that what meritocracy means? Person that's been there the longest, the person with the most degrees, the person with that has the highest in the hierarchy. What should you do when you look at ideas? You should look at what? Which idea is the best? Which idea is the best? It has nothing to do with that person. So if you can't successfully do something, don't think you can tell others how it should be done. You know, there's an old adage of this, that those that can't do, critique, right? Those that can't do, critique. So restaurant critics, why don't they have a restaurant? You know, sports critics, why aren't they on the field? You know, how many different fan shows are there, and NFL shows are there, and whatever it may be, NBA fan shows, or even let's talk about, I'm not a sports geek, but let's talk about some of these retired athletes who are now commentators. Why are they commentators? Could they go back on the field and still do it? No, they get killed. So don't think you can tell others how it should be done unless you can do it successfully. Now, do they ever take the worst player on the field to become a commentator, or do they take some of the best athletes on the field to become commentators? They have done it. So at least they have that clout behind them, that they at least have done it, insight, yeah, exactly, in the past. So if you can't successfully do something, don't think you tell others how it should be done. And how many FMOs out there, how many marketing organizations out there just want you to believe them based on what they're saying? You know, the funny thing is, too, I talk to my kids about this. All of these entities out there that want to give you courses on investing, why are they selling their courses on investing? If you had a course on investing that actually worked, what would you be doing? If you had figured out a way to invest, if you had figured out a way to invest in the market or in real estate, would you be telling other people how to do it? Yeah, no, you'd be doing it yourself. Because you teaching other people to do that, is that helping you or is that hurting you? You're creating what? Competitors. Do you want competitors that are beating you to the punch on your investments? No. So the fact is that you can't successfully do something and don't think you can tell others how you. I'm sorry. If you can't successfully do something, don't think you can tell others how it should be done. Find the most believable people possible who disagree with you and try to understand their reasoning. Whoa, what is he saying here? This is bizarre. Find the most believable people possible who disagree with you and try to understand their reasoning. Why is he saying that? Why is this a terrific? I think of all the things I'm talking today, this is one of the most powerful. Why? Yeah, you learn the other side. What's important about learning the other side? It gets you totally out of your own shoes. In fact, we do this with clients? When they give us an objection, what's the first thing that we do for 5 minutes? What are you supposed to do with a client the first 5 minutes? Not only do you agree with them, you start to what? Explain why their point of view is right. You actually start to get on their side. You start to argue their point of view. Then you can get into their shoes. Remember, believability comes from people who have successfully accomplished the thing in question at least 3 times. The great thing about our system in believability, we have 60,000 recorded tapes of our 21-point checklist working and our FIA script working appropriately. Is that 3 times? Is 60,000 greater than 3 times? So is it believable when we have something that's worked 60,000 times? Also, believability comes from people who have great explanations of the cause and effect relationships that lead to them conclusions. Have I ever told you just do it this way? Have I ever given you a technique and said just do it this way? Don't ask why it works, just do it this way. In fact, I've had some complaints that I go on ad nauseum about why something works. And here's the thing, some of the biggest FMOs in the industry were built on my system, on the 5Q system, with our exact scripts. They've had their top 10. The biggest FMO in the country had 2 people that were in their top 10 that were on the stage using my scripts, because one of my old guys gave them those scripts. Those 2 guys didn't even know where the scripts came from. They were just using them. If you would have asked them why those scripts worked, would they have any idea why those scripts worked? No idea. They just knew that they worked. So believability comes from when you explain why something works, that it's not magic. So next one, don't pay as much attention to people's conclusions as to the reasoning that led to them to their conclusions. And that's that whole thing, right? It's common for conversations to consist of people sharing their conclusions rather than exploring the reasoning that led to those conclusions. As a result, there's an overabundance of confidently expressed bad opinions. And that's what I'm going to say is other FMOs, other marketing organizations, other sales coaches, they couldn't explain why. And again, I love Zig Ziglar. When I first started selling back in the 80s, I was a big Zig Ziglar fan. But why did he say the things that he did worked? Why did he say the things that he did worked? Did he ever give you a concise reason why it worked? Or he said, oh, it's worked for me. Look at how successful I am. It's worked for me. It's worked for these guys that I taught it to. So if it worked for them, should work for you. Is that a great reason to move forward? Yes, as long as what? Absolutely, that's a great reason unless what happens? Things change. And has the world changed? Has the buying public changed since Zig Ziglar, since the 1980s? Who now has all the money? The greatest generation or boomers? Who has all the money, the greatest generation or boomers? And do the greatest generation even think even closely to the same way that the boomer generation does? Anywhere even close? No. So you'd better be able to explain why you're making the decisions you're making. Because if you just say, do it this way because it's worked before, do you really want that to happen? Is that any reason to do anything? No. Think about whether you are playing the role of a teacher, a student, or a peer, and whether you should be teaching, asking questions, or debating. As far as I'm concerned, there's only one thing we should be doing, which is what? Should we be a teacher, a student, or a peer with our clients? And yeah, Dale beat me to the punch here. Should we be teaching, asking questions, or debating? Open-ended questions as a peer. Very good. Open-ended questions as a peer, John. Exactly right. Understand how people came to their opinions. And again, that's all about gotzing them, right? It's all about when they give us an objection, I argue their point for them. And by doing that, can we disagree efficiently? With we spent 3 full coaching calls, 3 hours on how to overcome objections, and that was how to disagree efficiently. In fact, if you think about the classic sales cycle, there's 2 places. There's 2 places that are the most intense. There's 2 places that can cause the most conflict. Where are the 2 places in a normal sales cycle that can cause the most conflict? Where are the 2 places in a normal sales cycle that can cause the most conflict? Well, the first one is objections, right? They are saying, you're wrong, I don't want what you have. So is that a conflict? Yes. So instead of just overcoming that, we turned it into a what? By using the way that we overcome objections, we've gone from just trying to get by this without offending them to a rapport building scenario. See, at the end of us overcoming their objection, do they like us more or less by the end of that? Do they disagree with us because they have to, or do they like us even more after we overcome the objection? They like us even more. Why? Because we've empowered them, right? We've also told them that the way they think is absolutely spot on. We've agreed with them. We're on their side of the table. We think the way they think. So we've gone from turning it into a adversarial relationship into a rapport building. The second place in a classic sales cycle is at the close. You're saying, okay, now put your money where the mouth is. Does anybody, do advisors or salespeople of any ilk and the buying public, Is anybody comfortable at the close? When it comes right down, do you see any reason why we shouldn't move forward? Is anybody comfortable at that point? No. In fact, remember, the year before I created the 5Q system, I'd figured out how to market. I got in front of over 300 people. I did 101 case analysis, and I didn't close anybody. Why? Would you call me a good closer, or could I not close a door? Basically, 101 case analysis, $34 million, and I netted $800,000. I mean, when I say netted, I didn't make it. Out of the $34 million, I only got $800,000 to move to me. I made $50,000 that year. So is that a good closer? Yay or nay? Would you say I'm one of that year I was one of the best closers in the business, or one of the worst closers in the business? And I will tell you, I'm still one of the worst closers in the business. I cannot ask somebody to make a buying decision. So why could I go in to your territory and still close basically 100% of people if I'm such a lousy closer? Why can't I go into your territory, start marketing, get in front of people with a 21-point checklist, and close virtually every person I get in front of? Very good. I'm not the one closing them. My questioning has the client close themselves. So my way around that uncomfortable situation is to have the client close themselves. So we've turned, with the 5Q system, with motivational interviewing, the two most difficult adversarial type points in a classic sales cycle, the objection and the close, into rapport building situation. So have we figured out how to disagree efficiently with the 5Q system? Recognize that everyone has the right and responsibility to try to make sense of important things. That's the whole reason we do motivational interviewing. That's the reason we don't tell, we don't sell, we don't preach, we don't teach. We ask open-ended questions so the client can recognize and make sense of the important things. And when they do, they accept the responsibility for it. Guys, think about that. If you learn motivational interviewing, if you learn our scripts, your total responsibility is gone. They've taken the responsibility for it. Actually, too, think about this. If you follow the scripts the way I lay them out, that should be liberating for you. Because if you do the 21-point checklist scripts, if you do the FI scripts the way they're laid out and they do not work, whose fault is it? We got some wrong answers. Not your fault, my fault. It's my fault. I said if you do the scripts the way I lay them out, and you're going to close 94% of people, if it doesn't work, if you do it the way I lay it out there, if it does not work, whose fault is it? It's my fault. So is that liberating for you? Yes, because all the responsibility of success is now on whose shoulders? Yours or mine? It's on my fault. Because if you do it the way it's laid out, it's going to be like the client, you gave the client the script the night before. They will say exactly what they're supposed to say. If they don't, if you ask the questions and they don't say what they're supposed to say, then it's my fault. See, that's liberating for you. Make sense? Pay more attention to whether the decision-making system is fair than whether you get your way. Is the way that we conduct ourselves with 5Q, with motivational interviewing, is there any more fair way to deal with a prospect? Do we sell them? You know, this whole thing about selling ice cubes to Eskimos. With motivational interviewing, could you ever sell ice cubes to Eskimos? No. Why? Would an Eskimo ever say in their own words, yes, I need more ice? I live on ice. My house is made of ice. Everything around me is ice, but I need more ice. Would they ever say that in their own words? No. So a client's never going to say something unless they believe it and they need it. So is there any more fair way of selling somebody than to have them sell themselves? Is there any more ethical way to sell somebody than to have them sell themselves? Is there any better way to stay out of trouble with regulators than to record your meeting of the client selling themselves? Could you ever get in trouble with regulators if you have recordings of the client selling themselves. You don't make one single statement. All you do is ask questions. Would you ever get in trouble with regulators? Would any attorney ever take a client's, if the attorney knew that there's a recording of you asking open-ended questions and the client selling themselves, would any attorney ever even take that case? What would they say? Because they're paid on winning. Would any attorney think they're going to win that? So do you see the power of what we do? It's the best thing for you. It's the best thing for the client in so many, 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 many ways. It's the fairest way to proceed with a prospect decision-making process. Make sense? Super. So today's little snippet is going to be about the Survivor's Guide and how we will conduct ourselves with that. So when we look at our 21-point checklist crib notes that's on the website, the 4 things we're looking for is this is for loved ones, not for you. It's about personal items. It's about burial mistakes, and have them tell us why this would be a good thing to do. Okay? And why do we do the Survivor's Guide? Why is that the first thing that we do with a 21-point checklist? When they come in, what are they thinking we're going to talk about? Money. And see, it's like I always use this analogy. If I'm on a date with a girl and the only thing I talk about is sex, what does she think I'm only concerned with? Sex. So if I'm only talking about money, what do they think I'm there to do? Take their money. And if that's what they think I'm there to do, how defensive, how on guard are they going to be? A lot or not very much? A lot. So I need to have them come in and kind of have that, that cartoon where they go, what? I need them to be thinking, this is not what I expected. See, when they do that, what happens? They think, what happens to the defensive when they're going, what? What's he talking about? What happens to the defensive immediately? They relax. They're like, what's going on here? I better listen. I'm not sure what's happening. See, when they're uncertain what's going to happen, what happens to their listening skills? They go up. What happens to their preconceived ideas when they don't understand what's happening? They go away. And is it good for their listening skills to go up and their preconceived ideas that all we want is their money to go away? Yeah, it's great. So yes, the Survivor's Guide is a good thing for them to have, but it's a good thing for us to present to them as well for those reasons. Make sense? So let's get out of here. And I'm going to get to the tape here. So we'll go Survivor's Guide. Super. So the first thing we want to talk about is what we call a Survivor's Guide. And that is not for you. Obviously, if it's a Survivor's Guide, guess who it's for?
Whoever's left behind.
Whoever's left behind. And, when somebody passes away, is that a stressful time for people?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And
I don't know if you've gone through this, but do they require all sorts of paperwork that nobody has even thought about? And are people in the mindset to track those things down, or are they still grieving?
Oh, I'm sure they're still grieving.
Yeah, so this is actually not for you. It's for your loved ones.
Okay.
So the kind of things that you would put in here. Oh, did I hit the first bullet there? This is for the loved ones. Yep. Is location of important documents like marriage licenses.
Mm-hmm.
Do your kids know where to find? It's weird. When you die, sometimes they need marriage licenses and birth certificates. Do they know where to find any of those things?
No.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff. Important contacts, family records, whether your insurance and annuity contracts, your health insurance, because sometimes people are sick before they die, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And do they need to know how to pay for those things?
Oh, yeah.
With your insurance.
Yeah.
Exactly. Benefits that they may not know about, Social Security information, any trust information, financial assets, a personal letter of direction, any business issues you have. This is an important one, personal effects. If you have So up to this point, I've just been going through laundry list. But then I have to tell a story. Why do I need to tell a story? Why do I need to tell a story? Because people learn by facts or they learn by stories. People learn by facts or they learn by or make decisions by emotions. Make decisions by facts or emotions. And stories give us facts. Don't give us emotions. Stories give us emotions. So that's what we're going to make. That's right. We're going to make it real, Larry. That's exactly. It makes it real. A pile of money.
Mm-hmm.
Is that pretty easy to divide evenly between people?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But how do you divide a mom's ring evenly between 3 people?
Yeah, not possible.
Not possible. And if 2 daughters want it, or a daughter and a daughter-in-law want it, is it a stressful time when somebody passes away?
Yeah.
Could things be said that can't be unsaid?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that could cause what?
Oh, it could cause all kinds of problems, family arguments, all kinds of stuff.
Exactly right.
Who said it could cause problems? They did. Exactly.
So personal effects, I had a lady that had played tennis with her dad for 20 years. And so she has these 2 tennis rackets. Every time she plays a tournament, because she's pretty successful, she has those 2 beat-up rackets. Now, if they were in a yard sale, nobody'd pay $1 for them. But why does she carry them around?
Well, because that was her and her dad's.
Yeah. So if one of her siblings wanted those rackets, what could happen?
There could be a big fight, big argument.
But if Dad said Cindy gets it, then who gets it?
Well, Cindy gets it.
Maybe the others are sad, but is there going to be a fight at least between Cindy and the siblings if Dad said that's who they wanted? Yeah. So list the personal assets, things that not are maybe a monetary worth, but have what kind of worth?
Oh, like just sentimental value.
Sentimental value. The other thing is funeral and burial expenses. I'll give you an example of what can happen there. I had a client came in and she was really distressed because her mom was very practical, very knew the value of a dollar, and she didn't waste any money on.
So here's a second story that gets them emotional. Could some people say, "Oh, no, my family would never fight. No, we've got this already in our will. We've got those important things." They could. That's why I need to have another story
on frivolous things. So when she died, when her mom died, she thought, well, mom's very practical, doesn't like frivolous things. So thought, well, when she's buried, she probably would want it the most economical way possible, which is what?
Just a pine box or maybe burned cremation.
Yeah. Cremation, yeah. So cremation, and she was distressed because, sometimes when people pass away, it takes a while to get to personal effects. And, pictures and notes. And well, when her and her sister had gone through the personal effects 3 months later, she found a note from Mom saying, I don't care what you do with me when I die, except don't do, guess what?
Cremation. Okay.
And of course, if that had been placed here, would the kids have known that right away?
Well, if it had been here, they would have known.
Yeah, but instead it was with personal effects, and they didn't even get to that till months afterwards. So how do you think she felt?
Oh, I'm sure she felt really guilty.
She did. So this is something that we recommend you go through. Now, there's no hurry to do this, but it's one of those things that's not urgent, but it's what?
Well, it's important.
Important. And then once you get it done, you can get it notarized. And, what we do for a lot of our clients is we'll actually keep a copy of this here so the kids can find it very, very easily if you let them know. Or you don't have to do that. You can have it in your own home where you keep your important papers. Now, if all your important papers are, if you're telling people where your important papers are, it's probably good to have this someplace other than where your important papers are that's easily to find. But
so what have I laid out there? Why did I say? Well, who did I say could have a copy of this? Us. Why would that be important? By doing that, I started to involve who? And Missy can validate this. Every time one of our clients died, I think the first call right after the funeral home was guess who? Us. Because Mom and Dad always said that you had all of our important paperwork, copies of all of our important paperwork. Is that a good thing or a bad thing if we're the first call? What does that tell you about the way the family thinks about us? That we're what? We're the family's financial advisor, not just their parents' financial advisor. Does that make sense?
So why would this be a good thing to have?
Just to make sure that it's easy for the kids when we pass away, that they know what to do and where to go.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. It's not for you, it's for the kids. So does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense.
Super. So
Okay, so is anybody going to leave their current advisor because their advisor did not give them a survivor's guide? No. But could they be thinking, this would have been kind of nice for my advisor to give me this? Could they be thinking that? I'm not going to leave my guy for it, but you know what? He should have probably given this up for it. But it's not. This is just our first big toe in the door. To get our foot in the door, this is a big toe in the door. Nobody's going to leave because of this. But is it starting to get them to think maybe my guy didn't? Now, would anybody get defensive about their guy here? Would anybody say, well, yeah, well, my guy didn't do this, but, it's not his job to do this? Would anybody get defensive about their guy? No. So it's a way for us to start to pick at their guy without mentioning their guy. Remember, there's 3 things that we do with the 21-point checklist. The first thing we do is get them disappointed. This is one of the disappointments. Thinking, geez, my guy could pick up his game. Oh, my guy could have done this for me. Oh, this would have been something that would have been good for him to do for me. So it's just disappointment. Nobody, or very few, very, 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 very few, 1% of people will leave their guy just because they're disappointed. Then we go to things where it gets them thinking, wait a minute, I'm not disappointed. I'm irritated. These things that Mike's covering now, these are his job. These are his job, and he's ignoring, like a beneficiary. Is it his job to make sure the beneficiaries are correct? Yes, it's his job to make sure beneficiaries are correct. But is he making any money by doing the beneficiaries wrong? No. Why isn't he doing the beneficiaries? It's his job to do. He's not doing them. Why? Why do the other advisors not do there's no money in it. There's no profit in it. So they get irritated. This is his job. He's not doing it. But then when we get to the final things, they find out what? He's not doing these things, not because he's lazy, not because there's no money in it. In fact, there is money in it. The reason he's not doing these things is because he's making more money off me by putting me in a worse position. Remember last week when we did that? We at the end of the risk reward, we said, listen, we got 2 things here. Return, and we have fees. And you want the higher return or the lower return? We want the higher return. But you're getting what? The lower return. Okay, and you want fees. You want the higher fees or the lower fees? I want the lower fees. And you got what? The higher fees. So what you really want is high returns and low fees, but what did you get? We got high fees and low returns. And why did that happen? Because that SOB is withholding information from us to make money off us. See, so that in order to get to that point, if I started out there without at first getting them disappointed, they may fight me on that. So this survivor's guide gets them thinking, oh, it's not just about money. We're going to be talking about other things. It lowers their resistance to us. It gets them listening to us. Gets them to understand we're not just about the money. Gets them a little disappointed, tiny little bit disappointed with their guy, but that's the beginning of the process, which allows us at the end to be point blank and say, why did he do this to you? Because if I showed them their reward right up front and said, why did he do this to you? What kind of excuses would they come up with? Oh, maybe he didn't know, and, I'm not really sure, and, they'll come up with all sorts of expenses. But by doing step by step by step, the foot in the door, big toe in the door, foot in the door, calf in the door, thigh in the door, body in the door, by the time we get to the, hey, why did he do this? They're like, that SOB screwed me for his own good benefit. So do you see why we do this? Now, here's the thing. I'll tell you straight out. Guess how many of my clients actually filled out their survivor's guide? Most of them or not many? Most or not many? Very few did. Why? Because it has to admit that one day they may what? Die. They don't want to admit that. They think, they jinx themselves. If I fill this out, I probably will die. If I don't fill this out, obviously I'll never die. But every single year, I would bring this up and say, hey, did you get the survivor's guide done? Oh, no, I forgot to. Do you have another one of those? Sure. So do I force them to do the survivor's guide? No, but it's kind of like the doctor. Let's say that I come into the doctor. I've got severe heart problems. I'm sedentary, and I'm 400 pounds. What's he going to tell me to do? You need to get on a diet, and you need to start slowly exercising. Okay, so then I would expect him to show up at my house the next day, right? And cook me breakfast, and then make sure I take a walk around the block. Is he going to show up at my house to cook me breakfast and to walk me around the block? No, it's not his job to do those things. It's his job to what? Make responsible recommendations. Is having a client do a survivor's guide a responsible recommendation? Yes. And then the next year in my annual review, what am I going to do? If I'm going to the doctor and I still have heart problems, still weigh 400 pounds, and still don't do any exercise, what will he do? He'll say, dude, have you been dieting? Have you been exercising? He'll just ask again. So when they come in, they say they haven't done the survivor's guide. Do I chastise them? No, let's go through why it's important again, and why would this be a good thing to do? Super. Here's another one. And, when you get it, again, it's not urgent. It's important. So just get it filled out when you're able to get it filled out. So do you see but does it accomplish, again, at the end of the review, what I want it to do, which is say, I'm what? Different. Why? Why am I different? I do things that what? I don't get paid for. I do things I don't get paid for. Does that make them like me more or less? And when somebody likes you more, if somebody came up to you and said, how could your clients help you? What are the two things a client can do to help you? What are the two things a client can do to help you? Refer. Yep. Give me a referral. What's the second way they can help you? Give you more money, right, Bob? So by doing and reminding them we're doing these non-financial things at the interview, is that every year it's a chance for you to find money that you didn't know that they had, or they inherited, or that they found in the past year. Because they're going to want to give it to you. They're going to reward you, and it's a way for us, using our 2-minute referral script, to get them to refer to us. Does that make sense? Super. So just please give me some feedback. Are you okay with just attacking one little script like this at the end of every coaching call? Does this help? Awesome. And it's not okay. Good. Super. That's what I want to hear. Great. Well, then you guys have a great rest of the week, and we will talk to you all next Monday. Thanks, everybody.